Well, welcome to the Jägermeister Off the Deep End
Jägermeister. He gets to wear it on his shirt.
But you know what? We got Brian Humphreys from the Jägermeister Offshore Fishing Team. Brian,
That's
welcome
right.
to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Dave, let's talk about rigs and techniques for kingfish.
We bring in experts sometimes, you know, instead of having to listen to what I have to say. It's always a good thing.
Far from it.
Now, when I used to do a lot of kingfishing up in the Cape Canaveral area, you're from Fort Pierce, but you travel around, and the hardest part was always trying to find the spot where they are. What are the process that you go to try to find the body of fish that you want to go after?
Well, typically for traveling, say to Key West from Fort Pierce or north, we typically would try to leave a little bit earlier, a few days before the tournament and pre-fish, take a few days off of work, get settled in, maybe find where that bait is, and then look for where the fish might be. If time doesn't permit, can't get the time off of work, some less expensive, less costly ways would be to look on charter boats' websites, look at, the drift boats, see what they're catching, see what they're bringing in. So when you get in, you can kind of get dialed in and see at least maybe where the fish might be.
Are you allowed to get intel from other guys like in the area?
Absolutely. A lot of the guys that I fish against, we're pretty close-knit group of guys. We share the information. We don't tell each other everything, but we definitely talk to each other.
So let's say you find that spot, and what's the first bait that you want to put out? If you had all the baits you could go through, what are your favorite ones and what order?
Well, typically I'd like to fish with whatever I know that those fish are hitting in that area. So if I'm fishing Key West, it's a very large blue runner. But if I'm just going down, I don't have a lot of intel. I'm looking for goggle eye, I'm looking for blue runner. I always have ribbon fish on my boat. A little costly to fish with those at times because the trigger fish like to get a hold of them as well, but ribbon fish is always a good alternative. Out of Palm Beach lately, the fish have really been hitting sardines. So kind of shying away from the goggle eye and the blue runner. And going
Is it
to sardines.
bigger the kingfish type thing, or no?
You'd like to think that sometimes, but I'll tell you what, the sardines have been pulling 60-pound fish in out of Palm Beach and Boynton in the last 2 weeks. So we've kind of been shying away from those big baits.
Are you fishing the sardines under kites, or are you bumping them in and out of gear? What's your presentation when you're putting these live baits out?
My presentation is typically as natural as possible. I want that fish to look as free as can be. Don't want the kingfish to see the hooks, the wire. I want the bait to be look as free as possible.
Right.
So the rig needs to really be unobtrusive, in my opinion.
So how far down will you go? I mean, I normally fish with like 6, 7 wire, just fun fishing. But when you guys are tournament fishing, trying to get that bite, what are you doing?
We'll go anywhere between a number 4 wire. Sometimes we'll use titanium. Titanium is very expensive, but it's more forgiving in the fish's mouth, in the kingfish's mouth. You talked about the teeth earlier. Typically when you have a wire, if that wire kinks, it's going to break. Titanium has a little more.
Brian, I got a question for you. Now, you hook this big kingfish. They're going to run off big. That's why they got the nickname the smoker. Do you guys typically fish a real light drag, just trying to stay connected, or do you put some pressure on them?
Absolutely. Everything I use is very light. Light drag, I use small hooks, small wire, because I don't put a lot of heat on the fish. We actually use the boat a lot to get real quick back on the fish in order to not put a lot of pressure on them. We use high-speed reels. You're getting 6 foot back every time you crank the reel, and we're really using that boat to get back on them. So we're not using a whole lot of heavy drag. We're using real light drag and really using the boat to kind of follow that fish until he gets tired.
Is that because the kingfish's mouth and the way he's got all that hard stuff to hook, or do they get foul hooked a lot, or is that why you prefer to use the lighter drag? Or?
They hit the bait so fierce sometimes. There's a lot of foul hooks, especially with the ribbon fish. You'll find that you're fighting the fish from the side of his body. That becomes a problem. Their flesh is extremely soft, so the hooks tend to pull very easily, and you're oftentimes fighting the sharks. Is really what it comes down to. So you want to get that boat right back on top of that fish as quick as possible, so you can get them in the boat and
Man, that's some really good, insightful stuff. A little different twist over here at the Jägermeister.
Well, somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Off the
It's always
deep
a
end
really
segment,
good thing.
Oh man.